Alrighty, wonderful. Let's turn our image back onto the screen. There we go. There we go. So, is everyone in the room quite familiar with Blackboard? Yes. All right. Is anyone that needs the 101 today? No. All good. Alrighty. So, what we're going to obviously go through is looking at some key components of the April 2014 release. But as I was looking through, I thought, look, let me go through and we'll touch on a couple of things that may have also come in the last service pack before it, just so that you guys are up to date. Because I know probably the last thing that you're probably wanting to do is go and hunt through documentation and say what's new in this release. So anyway, at least if we stumble over anything today, hopefully it's of help to you guys. So I'm logged in as an educator. So I've got a bit of a political theme going at the moment, so we can see that we're logged in as Tony Abbott up the top here. And so I've got a fairly standard a subject here. I've got I'm laid out in topics at the moment. So if we head into our topics here, let's go and have a look in our topic 2 around life cycles. So we'll have a bit of a play with that one. So obviously we're flipping the classroom. We've got some introductory resources, and we'll just let it load in as you know it has loaded, and discussions, quizzes, etc. But we've got this assignment. So let's go and have a little bit of a look at that particular assignment. So an assignment is a Dropbox. How many people are you guys using the Turnitin assignment and also the Blackboard assignment at the moment? A bit of a hybrid use case? Fantastic. So what we're talking about here is the native Blackboard assignment tool. So that would be achieved by going to the menu at the top, Assessments, and clicking on Assignment, which is just not popping up for some reason. So let's come and have a look at this existing assignment, just so we can see what is within it, rather than sort of set one up from scratch. So all the normal things we would expect. We've got our, obviously our due date is very important. We want that in there. We've got our rubric there. Is everyone using rubrics in their assessments at the moment? Yep, cool. So that's all pretty standard. But down here we've got these new sections here. We've got details around how we can set some submission settings. So let's just delve into that quickly. So under submission details, we can say, what type of assignment is this going to be? So it could be an individual assignment. It could be a group assignment. So those two settings aren't different to what you would do today. However, there's one further option, which is a portfolio assessment. And let's just remember that. We'll come back to that in a little bit. But this is the one tool now that you can integrate the assessment of not only just day-to-day work, but also broader portfolio artifacts, which has been included with the April 2014 release. We also have the ability to automatically enable the Safe Assign plagiarism detection tool. So again, just one checkbox there. You can tick that and say, yep, I'd like to have Safe Assign running a report on this particular assessment. And obviously that Safe Assign report goes up to the cloud, checks your students' work against other students in the cohort, other students in past cohorts, and other students from other institutions and broader internet resources. So that's obviously available directly with a click there. Let's go and have a look at our grading options. So also this tool now supports anonymous and delegated grading. So anonymous grading, great, tick that, and the students will remain anonymous until a point at which grades have been released to them. So it's one simple tick there. What's this delegated grading? Let's have a bit of a look at that. So let's go and tick on that. So now what we can start to do is we can start to look at, well, how can we spread the grading through of our cohort amongst the educators within. So if I, for instance, have a look at who are the graders that we have in this particular, so who are the educators that we have in this particular subject? So at the moment we have Tony Abbott, he's one educator, and I've got Michael Garner, who is another educator. So at the moment, the default for the system would be, we just grade everything. We go to the needs grading view and it just says, hey, here's everything you need to do. Off you go. However, what we can start to do is we can say, well, I'd like to give Tony maybe a random set. So we might give him 25 of the submissions to grade, and I'll give another person another 25, for instance. Or we can also align it to groups. So I could say that Tony, I'd like him to be grading groups 1 and groups 2, and Michael to be doing groups 3 and groups 4. So now, at the setup of the assignment, you can automatically structure who is going to be doing what parts of the grading. And then when they log into their interface, they go to the needs grading view, they're only going to see the students that they need to grade that are aligned to their particular groups. So that's the first workflow in there. We also do support the notion of multiple graders. So we could actually have the situation where both Michael and Tony are doing groups 1 and 2 respectively. They'll each be providing grades and feedback on the particular piece of work. And then my job as the lead educator is to go through a grades reconciliation process. So we can see over here we've got a grades reconciliation button. So as the lead educator, so obviously each of these educators are doing their grading. As the lead educator, I can come in and then work to define, okay, what is the final grade that will be going to our students through a process of mediation between those different grades. So that's all now supported within the core workflows of the Blackboard embedded assignment tool. A couple of other things in here, just in terms of how do we display grades. You know, look, we could do this all before, but it was just you had to go to the grade center, you had to click a little button to down arrow and go to this spot here, and I would not forgive you for not knowing where to go. Sorry, I would understand why you wouldn't know where to go. So here it's all front and center. Very easily you can say, yep, do my students see this grading, see this straight away? When am I going to deploy it, and so forth. So we're trying to really make it nice and easy for educators just wanting to get in there and do their stuff. So that's really, in terms of setting up the assessment tool, the changes that we've made here. So let's go and have a quick look at the grading workflow just to see how that's evolved. So I'm going to go into my grade center as an educator. Pop in, maybe. Sorry, it's just being a bit slow to load. I'm going to go to my needs grading view. So my needs grading view, of course, summarizes what I need to go and grade. So I do believe our good friend Julia has provided us some assessed work. So we're going to go into her work here. So this will load up the assignment. So we'll see the markup. Is everyone pretty familiar with this view where you see the assessment on the left-hand side and the grading structure on the right-hand side? Great. So it will pop up in just a tick. So there we go. It's just a little bit. Oh, my little Wi-Fi is running a little bit slow today. So on the right-hand side, what we straight away notice is this Safe Assign section here. So this is because I ticked that box. Safe Assign is now integrated into that panel on the right-hand side, and it's saying, oh, we've got 100% match. So probably our grading for this particular student might stop at this particular point. But of course, we can click in. We can go and view the originality report. So that's the deepness of that integration. Directly from that from the grading space, you can now see exactly what's happening. And obviously, this report will summarize, of the various resources and matches that have been found against that particular student's piece of work. So nicely integrated directly into that framework. So of course, I can go about doing my grading. I've got my rubric down the right-hand side, so that's all pretty self-explanatory. I think you guys are all doing that already, so I can obviously do that, and I can save my rubric, and also I can give some final feedback to my learner. So one of the options that I do have, and this has been in Blackboard for a little while now, is the notion of video feedback. So in the text editor here, we have this little icon that looks like it's a record from webcam icon. And that allows us to directly embed video within the framework, directly from our webcam. So I could capture a nice 1-minute video just to summarize, or it could just be audio, just to summarize where I felt the student was at and ways in which that I'd like to see them improve. And obviously just that modality of engagement is something quite special. So whilst we're talking about grading, I wanted to quickly show you one of our most recent innovations, which I believe has hit the App Store now, and is actually should be available for you guys. It will just depend on the building block that you're running on your mobile, for your mobile learn. So possibly it may not work straight away, but that's not a hard thing to update. So I have my iPad, which is hopefully going to pop up. There we go. I'm in my iPad here. So just to set the scene, has everyone used Mobile Learn? Yep. So this is a new app in the App Store called BB Grader. So you can go and download it today. You can install it. We may just need to check your system is able to accept it, but that's not a big thing for us to fix. I choose the University of Western Sydney. I log in with my credentials. I'm presented with, here are the assessments that I've got on the go. Okay, so I can see the life cycles assignment that we saw before, and we can sort of see my progress through grading that. So if we click into life cycles assignment, I now see the students. In my subject, I can see obviously their profile coming through. I can scroll over. So for instance, I can have a look at Julia, and I can maybe bring up her risk profile, so I can get some understanding in terms of her activity within the course. Is there a call out for me to actually start to engage with her because maybe there's some things that are slipping? So I've got that. I can add notes. I can connect with the student directly from there. But of course, I want to come in and do some grading. So the system will just now directly load that document that we again saw before. I'll just take one tick. And much like you would do on the web browser, definitely my internet is running a little bit slow. So here, while it's loading, let's go and have a look at our grading structure. So on the top here, I think I've caused a few problems with this. Okay. It's always the way. It doesn't like me today. So I think so basically what will happen is the document on the left-hand side, the rubric will come down the right-hand side. You can do all the things you would do on the native computer. You can also natively bring in audio and video feedback directly from the device. So do all of your educators have these devices? Because I know all of your students do. Fantastic. So that's obviously now an integrated grading tool that's available directly from your device there. So if that pops up, we'll go back and have a look at that in a sec. But we'll flick back to our computer because it's not being very nice to me today. Okay, so one of the other things that was released in a relatively recent service pack, we'll just make sure that pops back up, was the notion of badges. Okay, and in Blackboard these are called achievements. So I've just added a little section on my screen here called My Achievements, and I've defined a particular badge around. I've called it the mastery of the life cycles topic within here. And obviously the badges can be completely at your discretion. You can define a badge for maybe a unit completion, or you can define a badge for a competency or component of that particular unit. You can define badges in terms of how long they last, and they are issued by the University of Western Sydney, and they are connected to what's called the Mozilla Open Backpack for badges. So students can take those badges and can bring them into other things. So they can actually take them into an interactive CV or things like that. And those badges, I guess, are in a sense, accredited by the institution to that level. So of course you can define criteria around the way the badge is deployed. So the criteria could be I have finished a particular section within my course, or I have achieved something on a particular assessment. So it's very easy to go and set these up, and nice and easily you just go into our section here. We'll go into our achievements, and I come through the process of defining what is my achievement and what will the triggers be. So we won't go into that right now, but that's available directly in your site, and you can start to look at. And did I see gamification was on the menu for today? Fantastic. So you can start to look at how you might use some of the tools like this to instill a sense of obviously students competing against each other through their learning. All right. So one of the other components within the new release, which has been a little while coming, is the notion of student preview. So your existing system had the notion of edit mode on, edit mode off. And yeah, look, it went a bit of a way to sort of show you what a student would see, but it wasn't really going to the depths of, well, if I had adaptive release, how would I be flowing through this course? Would I be able to actually sit the quiz and look at the grades and all that sort of stuff? That couldn't be done before. So the new release, up the top here, little circle with lines going around it, is the student preview tool. If you click on that, it's going to take us into the student preview, and we'll now be seeing the site as a student. So it actually has gone and created an entry in the grade center. It is really like a fictitious student that is existing at this point in time. So if I click into my topics, it's now going to show me sort of the workflow through here. So I've got to go into Mark Reviewed to get access to the next section. And now I can head down into my life cycles topic, and I've now can go through that. I can go into my grades and have a look at what this student's grades are looking like based on the way they're transitioning through this. So this is in the student preview tool. So whilst I'm here, I'm actually acting as a student. I can't go in and start editing things. Of course, at any point, I can exit the preview. And when I exit the preview, I'm asked a couple of things. Do I want to just delete the preview data straight? Do I want to exit and delete the preview data? Which is fine, and that's probably what you're going to do the most of the time, because we don't want to have fictitious student data sitting in the grade book for too long. However, you may be going through some complex sort of working of adaptive release, and you want to sort of come backwards and forwards. You don't want to have to keep redoing things. So yeah, you can actually keep the data for a certain period of time. Got the duck arrived. And so obviously that's a key decision you can make there. But let's just finish that. So a great new way for you guys to really have some confidence in terms of, well, here's how we've laid out the course. How are my students actually going to experience? What are they going to go through? What are they going to go through within it? So let's now log out. Let's go and have a look at a student, just so that we can see what she's up to. And this particular student is good old Julia Gillard. So I'm not too sure how a class would go with the two of these guys. But anyway, okay. So Julia's obviously coming into her site here. She's got her biology her biology site, and she's also in her education program. So let's go and have a look at her education program. So in here we have pretty much our standard framework. We've actually deployed a portfolio to this framework. So if we click into my portfolio here, this is just something the educator can add to the menu. So this is a tool that I guess is being brought with the April 2014 release. Now I'm not too sure if it's turned on yet and what process. Yes, you guys are going to be looking at it. So basically here I've defined here's my portfolio, so I can come in and work on my portfolio. So in terms of the Blackboard portfolio framework, one individual within your system can have as many portfolios as they would like. So I sort of see a portfolio as a presentation layer of artifacts. And the way we tackle artifacts within the framework is we have the notion of a personal artifact. So if I'm out doing my teaching degree and I've been out in a class doing some teaching and I've got a great work sample or I've got a great lesson plan that I'd like to capture, great. I want to bring that back in as a personal artifact. So they're things that I can just go and get with my mobile device, whichever way, and bring them in. The other type of artifact is the notion of a course artifact. So you saw us going through that grading workflow before. We went and graded that particular assessment. So I can now go and harvest any of those assessments, and I think I can do it here. In my education subject here, I've got an early intervention assignment that I have been graded on. So I can go and actually say, I want to take a snapshot of that right now. I want to harvest it from that subject site, that unit site, where it happened, and bring it into my portfolio repository here. I haven't actually deployed it to a portfolio yet. It's really just building that bank of these things that I may want to reflect on, or I may want to use as a means to share more broadly with the world. So as a student, that's my sort of my goal through those 4 years of my program, is to be collecting all of these artifacts that are going to be important to me at one point. But of course, I want to then bring them into a portfolio. So here we have our teaching portfolio. So if I click into edit this portfolio, what we'll now see is my structure down the left-hand side. So we can see the menu items. I've got some key, maybe you can see the bolded items of the page headings, and then each of these sections within are the items of content. So if I come into statement of my teaching philosophy, hey, what do we see? It's our standard visual text box editor. So the editor that we use through every page in Blackboard is there. And if I wanted to go and grab some media, of course, it's as easy as going it from YouTube or Kaltura or any different media repository we'd like to. Teaching. Let's just see what's happening with teaching. Truly amazing teacher. There we go. Let's grab that one. Let's embed that in. Let's go no for that. Cool. So I've just brought a nice little resource in there. If we save it, that's now updated to my portfolio. And I can come in here and preview my portfolio. So at any point I can sort of see, how's it looking. So I've set this particular layout. There's a number of different choices in, where does the menu sit, what colour schemes would we like to have. There was Julia's tell-all the other day, and here's our truly amazing teacher video. So of course we can be bringing all these sorts of components into our portfolio here. But you heard me talk before about this notion of that artifact that came from my subject site. So let's go and have a look at our graduate standard 1, knowing students and how they learn. And I have going to bring in that artifact that my educator had marked. I had provided my educator, and my educator had marked me on. So let's go and do that. So let's go and add our artifact. Here's my repository. I'm going to go and grab my early intervention assignment. There it is there. Now it's asking me, what do I want to bring over with this? So I can basically now define, well, yeah, of course I'd like to have the details of the assignment, what was asked of me, and my submission, what I provided. But I might like to also have the feedback, the grade and the rubric that was provided to me by the educator, because that's going to form part of, I guess, the way I'm reflecting against this particular piece of work. So let's just choose those there. Now if we come in and preview the portfolio, and we head into our graduate standard 1, okay, we can there see our assignment, early intervention. If we click on that, it will now open up with a panel that basically takes us through each of those key sections that we defined. What we're asked of, what we submitted, the grade, the feedback that we were given, and the rubric, and the feedback within the rubric is all there directly integrated into my portfolio now. So that's gone all the way from the point at which I submitted that assessment, which could have been 2 years ago, in that unit, it's gone through that marking phase. I've gone and grabbed it into my repository. I've then brought it into a portfolio at some point in time, and I've then made this up. Okay, and so obviously, one of the things with my portfolio is, of course, I'd like to share it with people, so I can come into I can finish my editing there, but I can come in at any point, and I can go and share my portfolio. So I can share a snapshot. So a snapshot takes a point in time view of this portfolio and sends it to people. So I could send it to anyone within the system. So if I knew Lene and Dennis's details in the system, I could choose them because they're internal to within our system. However, I could also send it to an external user. I could send it out to my email address. I could send it to a potential employer, anyone I'd like to, and it will. They don't need a password. It will give them a special little email to get into it with a link to go there. I can include passwords, and even I can set expirations for the portfolio because, especially if I'm sending this out to industry, I don't want it to be out there for too long. I want decisions made, so I'd like to provide them with access to it for a week to go and view it. So that's the way I can share it. But one of the really key workflows that we do want to be able to do is to bring the portfolio back to our educators to be looking at how a student is sort of lifting their heads probably more above a unit in terms of their broader career goals in that particular program. So if we go back to our subject side, down here I've got the notion of being able to submit this portfolio back. And I've also got a rubric here. So I've defined a rubric of how my educator is going to evaluate this portfolio. So if I come in to submit the portfolio, it's a simple little drop box. Now, unfortunately, I did already submit the portfolio, but we can see here, this is what the submission will look like. And amazingly, it's the same as the grading workflow with the assignment. So we can see, thank you, we can see the portfolio on the left-hand side and the grading structure on the right-hand side. So any rubrics that my educator has defined, they'll go about grading it down there. And of course, I'll get that feedback directly back from there. Good news is the iPad application will also be able to grade portfolio artifacts as well. So it's all completely integrated into that. So we do then, it does open up the ability to say, well, would I be submitting a portfolio to my unit site, or maybe would I go to an organisation that is that's broader across the program that I'm particularly in? So submission points for a portfolio can be as flexible as possible. They're not, whilst they're connected to a unit site, they don't have to be. It can obviously connect to multiple places. The portfolio is the student's own portfolio. So it doesn't, as units get closed off, they don't lose it. It is sitting within their own portfolio repository. Okay. So that's portfolios. I saw we've got just a couple of minutes left. So let's just log back in really quickly as our educator. Let's go and have a quick look at, are you guys using the new Collaborate integration? Yes, on your system? It's all going well? Fantastic. All right. So we'll probably... So you guys are all pretty familiar with the new integration to Collaborate? How easy it is to deploy a room directly to your site. So obviously each educator has their own site, and the room has a site, and you can also schedule them as you go. So one of the other key tools that we did release with, I think it was SP14, was the new group management tool. Okay, so the existing group management tool was okay, but it really didn't provide a lot of flexibility in terms of how you'd like to do it. So I'd like to say, I just want to go and see tell me about all of our students and what groups they're a member of. So I can straight away flick over to this view to say, okay, there's Julia. She's a member of Group 1, Group 2. Chris, she's a member of Group 3, but really quickly add them to additional groups. So I can very quickly work with the framework in there. I can head back into looking at my groups and looking at the settings. Sorry, I clicked Student Preview. I didn't mean to do that. That's messed me there. If we just go back into groups for a sec. So we can do all that. But the really good thing is you can also export. So you can export the groups out of your system that you have at the moment. You can go into Excel and start moving people around and doing different things, and you can import them back in directly to Blackboard. Blackboard will pick up on that. So a lot of key work to really make the process of managing groups far simpler for our educators. The other cool tool that I want to really quickly show you, which I think definitely I missed it for a while. I thought, oh wow, this is here, is the date management tool. So a very common workflow in terms of, hey, I taught this unit site maybe last semester. I'm rolling it into the next iteration of it, and I'd like to pick up every date in that and roll it forward by 45 days if that's the differential, or choose something arbitrary. So I can adjust the number of days, shift all days by 100, click Start, and it's now going to go through all of the assessments, all of the things that have dates within this particular unit site, and calculate what that new date is. Now, it's not going to automatically apply it now, I hope, otherwise I'm going to have things that are all due there. It's now going to suggest what do I think is going to be the new date based on that differential that I define. Now, of course, if that doesn't work, I can come in here and very quickly edit the date. So if you sort of remember back to, to change dates, I'd have to go into every assessment, go drop down, go change the settings and things like that. Yeah, okay, you can do that, but here is a one-stop shop to look at when things are due, when their availability is on and off, and when adaptive release obviously begins and ends. So one-stop shop to really look at the very important dates, and we can obviously make changes as we go. So I've got the 1 minute sign there, so I am going to stop right now.